Good to be here. We are entering the fourth computing paradigm, and unfortunately at this moment there's very little gospel work being done in that. Let's do a quick history. The first computing paradigm many of you have interacted with before. I don't know if anybody in here has done DOS. You had the keyboard going, striking commands. I see a couple of head nods, a couple of people saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. The second computing paradigm was when we interacted with data and information in a different way. It became graphical. We had the screen, we had the mouse, we had Windows, and then coupled that with the internet, it was nothing short of a revolution. The information age has begun. The third computing paradigm, I don't have to convince any of us, the smartphone revolution has just gone beyond what we could have imagined. And now the fourth computing paradigm is here. Just when you think you've seen and heard it all, we are talking about virtual reality and augmented reality. And this is a new paradigm that is coming, a new paradigm that is actually here. And beyond the technology is something called the metaverse. And if that's something that you've never heard before, you definitely want to book that in your mind. And the metaverse is coming. It's a state of these existing virtual worlds, these virtual cities where the run sets and the sun rises and falls. And there's economies of scale. It's just a fascinating place to experience virtual reality. And I would argue that this is the largest unreached people group. We think in missiological terms of unreached people groups as like Asia and Africa, and that remains true. But the case to be made that the metaverse is the largest unreached people group. And I'm really excited to share a little bit of our vision, a little bit of our background. But one thing to keep in mind when we talk about the fourth computing paradigm in VR and AR is that there are billions of dollars being spent by Google, Facebook, Apple, and we haven't even seen the full fruition of that economy. Long story short, my family, my wife and I were pastors at a church in Pennsylvania, and in 2016, we felt like God wanted us to do something new. And we didn't know what new meant. We thought new meant plant physical churches, so that's what we set out to do. And it was about the same time the Oculus Rift came out. Oculus Rift is the first commercial VR headset. Now, VR has been around for a long time, but this is the first time we've seen it at a consumer level where you can go to Amazon or Best Buy to purchase it and to experience it. So we got the VR. It was amazing. We're a bunch of gamers and geeks, Fortnite, Overwatch. And I remember in the summer of 2016 experiencing the metaverse for the first time. I had never seen anything like it. We put on the VR headset, a new reality comes over your eyes, and I'm interacting with people from all over the world. We're walking up to each other, giving high fives, saying hello. It's this immersive world I've never seen before. It wasn't too long after that, just a few days, I thought, we had left the church, we're going to go plant physical churches. I said, well, let's try having church services in virtual reality. So in June of 2016, we had the church virtual reality church experience. And it was amazing for me. It was 5 people came to my first church service in VR, and I was ecstatic. Maybe as a physical church planner, that'd be devastating, only having 5 people come to your launch day. But for me, I was so pumped. And here's why. The first visitor was an atheist from Denmark, and he popped in and he says, man, I don't believe in God or anything, but I'm just curious to see what this is all about. And the light bulb came on, and I thought there is some significant ministry to be had in the metaverse. So we started experimenting with church in VR in 2016, but the light bulb really came on in 2017 when we realized we planted a church in virtual reality. And there are some things that we discovered. Let me see if this thing will advance. I don't think it's advancing here. Green button, right? But we'll keep going with that. I don't know if you guys can do it in the back. The next slide, yeah. So one thing that we experienced in 2017 when the light bulb came on was that we actually planted a church. And that little psychological shift was so significant for us because it was more than just an experiment, a little ministry we were doing on the weekend. It was the fully functional, fully breathing church in virtual reality. And we discovered many things like all the functions of the church can exist in VR. I mean, I'm talking about everything from prayer, small groups, sermons, baptisms, all these things that we were experiencing in virtual reality. And not only did we discover all the functions of the church could exist, we discovered that relationships can be deep and authentic. Some of the criticisms we would get for VR churches, you can't have real relationships, it's fake, you can't, people are not going to be their true self. But we found the opposite to be true. we found that the anonymity of the avatar leads to deep authenticity. So we were experiencing ministry that I've never experienced before as a physical church pastor. And there were some significant breakthroughs that we were having in people's lives. So in 2017, in one sense, the church started taking off as we had that little psychological shift that we were planting a church. And so we discovered all the functions of the church. We discovered real relationships. And then something interesting that I had not imagined that would happen as we learned something new is that God wanted us to reimagine the church, not replicate it. So when we started the church in 2016, 2017, we tried to replicate one for one what was going on with the physical church. And we realized that God wanted us to reimagine. And so we're in the middle of that journey, reimagining what the church could be in virtual reality. It's interesting because the possibilities are endless because we can control time and space. So one example of that reimagination is, for the better part of a year or two, I used to deliver sermons from the stage. And then we realized we're in the metaverse. We're in the Matrix. You think of that moment in Inception where Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen Page are walking through Paris, and she's like bending the world with her brain. And I was like, that's what we're doing. That's what we're in. Let's do that. So all of our sermon experiences go through as we recreate worlds. As a matter of fact, this past Sunday, we were doing Hebrews chapter 3. As we reflected back to Moses, we were walking right across the Red Sea. The waters were cascading all around us. And so there's unlimited possibilities for virtual reality. And what we're discovering is that experience with the scriptures is imprinting in people's spirit in a way that I had not experienced before.
DJ, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The clock was, I think you reset it with your buzzer. You got a minute.
Got a minute. Gotcha. Oh, thank you. So let me cut this short as far as the functions of the church, the real relationships, God's guiding us to reimagine over replicating. And your support is actually more than just planning a single church. We're a church planting movement. Fundamentally, my wife and I, have an apostolic vision. So we've planted 4 churches across the virtual cities, across the metaverse. And that's also spawned a ministry called MMO Church. So we have 4 churches, and this MMO church is planting churches across MMOs. I'm talking Final Fantasy, Rust, and Black Desert Online, and we believe VR and MMOs are going to converge in the future very powerfully. And so your support is more than just a single church. It's actually a church planting movement. We started our church in Rust recently, thinking it was just going to be a slow growth. But one TikTok viral video later, and it has, in a couple of weeks, in some ways eclipsed what's happening at VR Church. And so there's a catalytic church planting movement happening, and we need your support. Last thought is this. The information age is coming to a close, and the experience age is about to begin, and that's a virtual reality and augmented reality. And we're poised for the future, especially when the 5th computing paradigm comes, the blockchain church, but that's another topic for another day.